The sky hung low and gray, as if even the heavens hesitated to mourn her. A drizzle slicked the cracked headstones, the raindrops falling in rhythm with the hollow thud of dirt hitting wood. Alora, the abandoned mother, was lowered into the earth with only a handful of reluctant faces standing at the grave's edge. Her children stood apart, each keeping a deliberate distance not just from the casket but from one another. Michael, the eldest son, wore his grief like an iron mask. His suit was perfectly pressed, his jaw tight, his eyes dry. He whispered rehearsed condolences to the priest, then checked his watch, as though the ceremony were nothing more than an obligation squeezed between business meetings. To outsiders, he had always been the image of respectability, the dependable one. But his stillness felt less like mourning and more like calculation. Beside him stood Claire, the so-called dutiful daughter, clutching her rosary so tightly that the beads dug into her palms. She forced her lips into a trembling pout, the practiced sorrow of someone who cared deeply about appearances. But her eyes betrayed something else: anxiety, guilt, a restless darting as though she feared what might surface if anyone dared look too long. Daniel, the youngest, was the only one whose eyes glistened with genuine tears, though even his grief was mixed with bitterness. He muttered under his breath, "We abandoned her. We left her to die alone." But no one answered. No one wanted to carry that weight aloud. Around them the air was heavy with silence. Only the priest's voice cut through, solemn yet perfunctory, as though he too sensed the chill of hypocrisy in the air. "May her soul find the peace that life denied her," he intoned, his words drifting upward with the mist. No one placed flowers on her grave. No one lingered after the final blessing. Within moments, the mourners began to scatter, their umbrellas blooming open like dark wings. It was the kind of funeral meant to be forgotten, buried under silence as quickly as the coffin itself. But silence did not last. Whispers began at the very edge of the cemetery, carried by two neighbors who had known Alora in her final years. "Have you heard?" one murmured. "There's a video, something she left behind." Michael caught the words, his brows narrowing. He turned sharply, but the whispers hushed the instant his gaze fell upon them. His lips pressed into a thin line. Nonsense, he thought. Mother was too weak, too frail. She had nothing left to say. And yet, later that evening, as he returned to his glass-walled office, his computer screen flickered with a new message. The subject line was simple, almost mocking. Her last words. Michael's chest tightened as his hand hovered over the mouse. The email bore no sender, no trace of origin, only the link waiting like a trap. For a moment, he considered deleting it, burying this message just as quickly as they had buried her body. But curiosity gnawed at him, relentless. He clicked. The screen went black. Then, slowly, an image emerged. His mother's face, pale but resolute, her eyes burning with something he had not seen in years. Strength. She sat in a dimly lit room, a camera pointed directly at her. Her lips parted, her voice trembling, raw, alive. "If you are watching this, my children, it means I am gone, but I will not leave in silence. You buried me once in life, and now you will hear the truth I carried to my grave." Michael's breath hitched. The screen glitched, then froze. The recording cut off abruptly. And below, a single chilling line appeared, typed across the blank screen. "Part 1 of 5. Michael's hand shook on the mouse. His mask of composure cracked, if only for a heartbeat. Because in that moment, he realized the past was not buried with her. It was only beginning to crawl out of the grave. Cliffhanger. Michael stares at the frozen screen, his reflection caught in the black glass, the words, her last words, searing into his mind. The morning after the funeral, the siblings gathered inside Michael's modern, sterile living room. The glass walls stretched high, showing the city skyline, but none of them looked out. The air was tense, thick with the kind of silence that only followed death and guilt. Michael paced near the television, the email still fresh in his mind. "There's something you all need to see," he said, his tone clipped, impatient. Claire crossed her arms, her polished nails tapping against her silk blouse. "Michael, I am exhausted. We just buried her yesterday. Whatever this is can wait." Daniel, his voice raw from a night of restless tears, shook his head. No, I want to see it. If she left something, we owe it to her. Michael turned sharply. Oh? Don't speak to me about debts, Daniel. I carried the weight of this family while you cried in corners. Carried? Daniel's jaw clenched. You abandoned her just like the rest of us. Claire slammed her hand against the table. Enough! We're not here to fight. But her voice wavered. Her eyes flicked nervously toward Michael. Show us the video. End this nonsense. Michael plugged his laptop into the massive screen on the wall. His hand hovered for a moment, hesitation flickering across his otherwise rigid features. Then he clicked the link again. The screen lit up with their mother's face. Elora looked frail, her shoulders narrow beneath a faded cardigan, her hands trembling in her lap, yet her eyes burned with clarity, piercing the screen as if she were looking directly into each of them. My children, she began, her voice hoarse but steady. By now I am gone, and you stand before the world as if you are blameless. But the truth will not stay buried with me. Daniel leaned forward, his lips parting as if he could speak to her ghost. Claire stiffened, her rosary slipping from her fingers and clattering softly to the floor. Elora's gaze hardened. Michael, she said, pausing. His name alone carried weight, dragging the room into silence. You paraded as the responsible one, the good son, but it was you who decided I was a burden. You who convinced them to place me away, to lock me in silence, so the world would not see the cracks in your perfect mask. Michael froze. Elora's voice grew sharper, the words dripping with betrayal. You left me to rot, Michael. You told them I was weak, that I was losing my mind. But it was your convenience you protected, not my dignity. You abandoned me to die alone, and for that, the world must know who you truly are. The room erupted. Daniel stood, his voice cracking with rage. Is it true, Michael? Did you decide this? Claire's eyes widened, though not with surprise, with something closer to relief, as if a secret she had carried for years had finally been spoken aloud. Michael, tell me this isn't true. Michael's face hardened, his mask slipping back into place. She was sick. She was confused. Do not take the ramblings of a dying woman as truth. But the video continued, drowning out his denial. To those who knew me, to those who will watch this, he is no savior. He is my jailer. The video jolted, the screen glitching as if the weight of her words were too heavy for the device to carry. Then, mid-sentence, the image froze, Elora's eyes burning into them, her mouth open as if she were about to reveal something even darker. For a moment the room was silent, only the sound of Claire's shaky breathing and Daniel's quickening pulse filled the air. Then, across the screen, white text appeared against the black void. Part 2 of 5 complete. More will follow. Claire stumbled backward, her hand pressed against her chest. There's more? Daniel whispered, almost in awe. She's not done with us. Michael clenched his fists at his sides, his reflection staring back at him from the black glass of the television. For the first time, his composure wavered. Cliffhanger. The siblings stare at the screen, realizing this is only the beginning. The mother they tried to bury has risen in truth, and the next revelation is already waiting. The house was suffocating with silence, broken only by the faint hum of the television waiting to be switched on again. None of the siblings had slept. Elora's words from the night before still echoed in every corner of their minds. Claire sat rigidly on the couch, her hands folded too tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. She wore the same clothes from the funeral, though now they looked disheveled, worn. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to speak but feared what might escape. Daniel paced restlessly, his anger still raw. She's not lying, he muttered, not for the first time. She couldn't make all that up, not in her condition. Michael, you're hiding something. Michael, standing near the window with his back to them, did not answer. His reflection in the glass was unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, calculated. She was old, bitter. She wanted someone to blame. I will not let her tarnish this family further. But before Daniel could reply, the television screen lit up. Another email had arrived, this one sent not just to Michael, but to all three of them. The subject line read simply, "For my daughter." Claire's chest tightened. She rose slowly to her feet, her breath quickening. "No, no, not me." The video began. Elora appeared again, sitting in that same dim room, her cardigan draped over her frail shoulders. Her voice was softer this time, almost sorrowful, yet sharp enough to cut through bone. "Claire, my sweet girl, the one who visited me with flowers, who held my hand and called herself dutiful. Do you think I did not see through the mask?" Claire pressed her hand over her mouth. Tears brimmed, but she shook her head violently. "No, she's wrong, she's wrong!" Elora's voice grew colder. "When your father died, I trusted you. I gave you power over my accounts. I believed you would protect what little I had left. But you drained it, piece by piece. My savings, my home, everything I owned, stolen by the daughter who pretended to be my guardian angel." Daniel spun toward her, his eyes blazing. "Tell me it isn't true, Claire. Tell me you didn't steal from her." Claire's body shook. She collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her trembling hands. I only took what I needed. You don't understand. Michael wouldn't help me. And I had debts. Michael turned then, his eyes narrowing. "Debts? Or greed?" His tone was a venomous whisper, the words slicing through the air. The video played on. "You smiled at me while you robbed me blind. You prayed in my presence while your hands dug into my flesh. And when I begged you to stop, you told me it was for the good of the family." Claire let out a strangled cry. "She doesn't know. She was sick. She didn't know what she was saying." But Daniel's face hardened. "She knew enough, Claire. She knew the truth." The video flickered, then ended abruptly, leaving a still image of Elora's hollow eyes burned into the screen. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel whispered, his voice trembling with rage. "You stole from her while she starved. While she begged for help, you killed her faster than any illness." Claire reached for him, desperate. "Daniel, please, don't look at me like that. I didn't mean for it to go so far." He pulled away, disgust clear in his eyes, and then, from the shadows of the screen, new words appeared. "Someone in this room helped me share these truths." The siblings froze. Michael's jaw tightened. Daniel's head snapped around, his eyes darting between them. Claire's sobs caught in her throat. Someone among them had betrayed the family from within. Cliffhanger. The siblings stare at one another, suspicion replacing sorrow, as the question hangs heavy. Who leaked the videos? The morning news did not let them breathe. Every channel, every social feed, every headline screamed about Elora's haunting videos. Clips of her trembling accusations had gone viral. Strangers dissected her words, digging into financial records, analyzing family photos, tearing apart the image of a once respected household. The siblings were trapped inside Michael's apartment, blinds drawn tight against the world outside. The tension between them had grown unbearable. Claire sat curled in an armchair, her face pale, eyes swollen from endless tears. Daniel paced like a caged animal, muttering curses under his breath. Michael, as always, kept his composure, though the muscle in his jaw ticked with every passing second. Then, the chime of another email. Michael rushed to his laptop, but this time Daniel shoved him aside. "You won't control this," he snapped, opening the message himself. On the screen appeared the familiar subject line, "A love that defied blood itself," Claire gasped. No, not this." Michael's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, not this?" Before she could answer, the video began. Elora appeared again, weaker now, her voice carrying the weary weight of heartbreak. "Of all the secrets I carried, this one cut deepest. Love is a blessing until it becomes a curse." The screen flickered, revealing a stack of faded letters in Elora's fragile hands. She unfolded one, her eyes glistening. "One of my children betrayed not only me, but the sanctity of family itself. An affair, a love hidden in shadows, a passion that never should have existed. And it was with someone I once called my own." The room fell into a suffocating silence. Daniel's face contorted with confusion. "What is she talking about? Which one of you?" Claire shook her head violently. "Stop! Don't ask!" Her voice cracked. Michael's eyes blazed. Claire, what do you know? Who was it? On the screen, Alora's trembling hands held up one of the letters. The handwriting was unmistakably familiar. It belonged to Claire. You thought I would never find out, Elora's voice trembled. But I saw the letters. I saw your shame and your desperation. You loved him, the man who once loved me, my dearest friend, my companion in loneliness. You took what was mine and made it your sin. Daniel's mouth fell open. Claire, no, please tell me it's not true. Claire's body shook as she buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean to. I didn't plan for it. He understood me, Daniel. He was there when no one else was. Michael's voice rose, thunderous. You slept with one of Mother's lovers? His hand slammed the table so hard the glasses rattled. You disgust me, Claire sobbed, trembling under the weight of their fury. You don't understand. I loved him, and he loved me. It wasn't betrayal. It was survival. But Alora's voice cut through her cries, sharper than any blade. Love may excuse many sins, but this was unforgivable. Blood must never cross where it does not belong. And for this, Claire, the world will never forgive you. The video crackled, freezing on Alora's tear-streaked face. Then white words scrolled across the black screen. The love that defied blood was only the beginning. The truth runs deeper still. Claire collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel turned away, his fists pressed against his eyes as if to block out the truth. Michael stood over them, his expression carved from stone, his contempt unmasked. Cliffhanger. Daniel whispers, If this is only the beginning, what else is she hiding? The room falls silent, each sibling realizing the worst secrets have yet to come. The apartment felt colder than before, as if the walls themselves recoiled from the family's sins. Hours had passed since Claire's confession tore through the room, yet her sobs still echoed faintly in the corners. Michael had retreated into silence, his jaw locked tight, while Daniel sat by the window, staring into the stormy skyline as if answers might be hidden in the clouds. Then came the now familiar chime. Another email. Michael's eyes darted toward the laptop. No one moved for a long moment, as if touching it might unleash another curse. Finally, Daniel strode forward and clicked. Subject, The child you never knew. Claire gasped, her trembling hand flying to her mouth. No, please God, not more. The screen lit up once more with Alora's face. Her skin was pale, her eyes ringed with shadows, but her voice carried a chilling steadiness. You believed my life was empty, that I had only you, my 3 children, but you never asked why I forgave so many sins. Why I carried my silence with such weight. The truth is simple, you were not my only children. Michael's composure cracked for the first time. His head snapped toward the screen, his voice sharp. What is she saying? Elora's lips pressed together before she continued. Long ago, I made a choice to protect what was mine. A child born in secrecy, hidden from the world, kept away because I knew the rest of you would destroy what little innocence remained. That child is alive, watching, waiting. The siblings froze, stunned. Daniel's voice shook with disbelief. Another sibling? That's impossible. But the video did not relent. You called me a burden, a madwoman, a shadow. But you never wondered who else carried my blood. And now, as you squabble over lies and inheritance, remember this. One of you is not who you believe yourself to be. And the one you cast aside may soon return. The screen flickered, then faded into black. Across it appeared the words, The forgotten child will have the final word. The silence that followed was suffocating. Daniel turned to Michael, his voice low and trembling. Did you know? Did you know about this? Michael's nostrils flared. Of course not. She's playing with us, manipulating us from the grave. Claire shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. No, I remember things. Whispers. Late-night arguments when we were younger. She always said she had secrets I wasn't old enough to understand. Daniel's face paled. Then it's true. There's someone out there. Someone who belongs to her and to us. Before Michael could reply, the television screen flickered again. not with the mother's face, but with a grainy live feed. A shadowy figure stood outside, across the street, barely visible beneath the dim glow of a street lamp. The camera zoomed in slowly, showing the stranger's hand clenched tightly around the small silver locket. Elora's locket. Claire let out a sharp scream, stumbling backward. Michael froze, his usually steady hands trembling at his sides. Daniel pressed his palms to the glass window, staring into the night as the figure turned and vanished into the darkness. The feed cut abruptly, the television returning to its blank screen. On it appeared one final line: "Blood cannot hide forever." The siblings stood in stunned silence, each of them breathing hard, hearts racing. Cliffhanger. Michael mutters through clenched teeth, "If they are real, they will come for everything." The siblings realize the hidden child is no longer a rumor. It is a threat. By the next morning, the siblings could no longer pretend to be united. The mother's revelations had carved deep cracks in the fragile foundation of their family. Now those cracks widened into gaping chasms. Michael sat at the head of the long dining table in his apartment as though it were a throne. His jaw was tense, his suit immaculate despite the sleepless night. He tapped his fingers against the polished wood, the sharp rhythm filling the silence like a ticking clock. Claire sat across from him, her eyes hollow, her hands wrapped tightly around a glass of untouched water. She looked diminished, but there was still a flicker of defiance behind her despair. Daniel paced restlessly along the length of the room, his movements erratic. "We have to find out who this secret child is. They're the key. They're the reason she's haunting us with these videos." Michael's lip curled. "No, the reason is you two. Weakness. Betrayal. You let her play you like fools." Claire's head snapped up, her voice sharp with venom. "Do not pretend you are innocent. You put her away, Michael. You abandoned her." Daniel stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing. "And you stole from her, Claire. Don't forget that." The room ignited. Accusations flew like daggers, each sharper than the last. "You ruined us with your greed. You were too weak to protect her. You only care about your reputation, Michael." The air grew hotter, heavier, as voices rose to a fever pitch. Years of resentment boiled over, secrets long buried spilling out in fits of rage. And then, the doorbell rang. All three froze. Michael straightened immediately, regaining his composure, and strode toward the door. He opened it to reveal a man in a crisp black suit, holding a thick envelope. "Mr. Harrington?" the man asked. "I am here on behalf of your late mother's estate. Her will contained updates." Michael frowned. "Updates?" The man stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. He placed the envelope on the table, slid out a document, and cleared his throat. "Your mother left a clause, one that directly affects the inheritance of all her children." The siblings exchanged uneasy glances. The lawyer's voice was calm, deliberate. "The clause states that distribution of the estate cannot proceed until the existence of the fourth child is addressed. This child, if located, has equal claim to everything. Furthermore," he paused, scanning the paper, "if the other siblings contest or conceal their identity, they forfeit their share entirely." The room erupted again. Claire shot up from her chair, her face ashen. "No, that cannot be right. She wouldn't do this to us." Michael slammed his fist onto the table, rattling the glasses. "This is a trick. She is still controlling us from the grave." Daniel's face twisted with both fury and fear. "If the secret child comes forward, we lose everything. Everything!" The lawyer calmly placed the document back into the envelope. "I suggest you prepare yourselves. Your mother's instructions were explicit. The truth must come out. Until then, none of you will see a penny." With that, he turned and walked out, leaving a stunned silence behind him. Claire's hands shook as she clutched her rosary. "If this child exists, they'll destroy us." Michael leaned forward, his voice low and venomous. "Then we must destroy them first." Daniel's eyes widened. "You would go that far?" Michael's gaze burned with a cold, ruthless fire. "If it means saving this family's legacy, yes." The siblings stared at each other, the fragile ties that bound them unraveling completely. And then the television screen flickered once more. The black screen bore a new message in stark white letters. "The world is watching. The trial begins now." Cliffhanger. The siblings realize their fight is no longer private. The internet, their neighbors, perhaps even the hidden child, are waiting for the next revelation. By the end of the week, the Harrington family was no longer a private scandal. They were a public obsession. Every major news outlet had picked up Alora's videos. Talk shows dissected them, experts debated them, and social media transformed the revelations into a circus. Hashtags like #JusticeForAlora and #HarringtonScandal dominated the internet. Strangers across the world argued in comments and live streams, choosing sides, trading theories. The siblings could not step outside without being hounded by flashing cameras, microphones shoved into their faces, and angry protesters demanding answers. Their mother's voice, recorded in those dimly lit confessions, haunted every screen in the city. Inside Michael's apartment, the three of them sat in grim silence, the television showing yet another live stream. A popular influencer pointed directly at the camera, voice heated with outrage. Think about it. This woman was abandoned, robbed, humiliated, betrayed by the very people who should have loved her most. And now we learn there's a secret child? The Harringtons are nothing but liars and thieves. They should pay for what they did. Daniel flinched and shut the television off. "We can't escape this," he muttered. "The whole world is watching. They'll never believe us." Michael's tone was cold, unwavering. "They don't need to believe. We just need to survive this." But then, as if on cue, another email arrived. This time, it was different. Sent not to one of them privately, but to a public server. Within minutes, it went viral. The subject line, "The Trial of My Children." Daniel's eyes widened as he opened the link on his phone. The video showed Elora again, but this time her voice was sharp, commanding. "If the world is listening, let them judge. Let them weigh the sins of my children and decide what is owed." The screen shifted. One by one, images flashed. Michael, signing documents to place Elora in care. Claire, withdrawing money in secret, smiling at charity galas while her mother lived in squalor. Daniel, ignoring calls from the nursing home, drunk in a bar while Elora's health declined. Each image cut deeper, each accusation like a blade. Daniel stumbled back, horrified. She recorded everything? How? Michael's face tightened, but he said nothing. Claire collapsed into a chair, whispering, "She wanted this. She wanted the world to hate us." Within hours, the scandal shifted from whispers to legal consequences. Prosecutors announced they were opening a case against Claire for financial exploitation. The words fraud and embezzlement filled the airwaves. Michael's business partners began withdrawing, severing ties to avoid being tainted. Daniel's friends stopped answering his calls. That night, the siblings sat in darkness, the glow of their phones the only light. Hundreds of messages poured in, threats, insults, demands. And then, a new video appeared on the family's official website, though none of them had posted it. The screen was black, the voice unmistakable. "There is one more revelation, the betrayal that started it all." The siblings froze. Their mother's voice continued, calm and deliberate. "It is time the world knows what set this family's destruction in motion." But just as the words reached their peak, the video cut to static. Across the screen appeared a countdown. Final confession releases in 72 hours. Claire's hands shook violently. "She's gonna destroy us. Whatever's left, she's gonna burn it to the ground." Michael's fists clenched, his eyes dark with fury. "No! We cannot let her finish. We have to stop this, before the final video ends us all." Cliffhanger. The siblings stare at the frozen screen, the countdown ticking, each second dragging them closer to the revelation that could annihilate what little remains of their family. The countdown ticked relentlessly. Every hour brought new speculation online. Every minute pulled the siblings closer to the truth they dreaded. News outlets broadcast theories as if they were gospel. Influencers hosted live-stream trial rooms, dissecting every detail of the Harrington family history, and strangers debated endlessly about what the betrayal that started it all could mean. Michael had locked the apartment doors, ordered food deliveries to be left in the hallway, and pulled the curtains tight. But the world's gaze was inescapable. Even inside, their mother's shadow pressed against them, suffocating. At exactly midnight, the countdown hit 0. The television screen flared to life on its own. None of them touched the remote. The black screen dissolved into their mother's weary face. Elora's voice was steady, carrying the weight of decades. "You know the crimes I have named. You know the lies you lived. But you do not know why it all began. Tonight you will learn the truth that poisoned this family from the very beginning." Claire clutched her rosary, whispering prayers. Daniel's hands trembled against his knees. Michael leaned forward, unblinking, his jaw tight. Elora drew in a long, shaky breath. "It began years ago, before the world turned its back on me. I was betrayed not by a stranger, but by my own flesh and blood. The child I trusted most, the one I believed would protect me." Her eyes seemed to pierce through the screen, straight into Michael. Daniel shot to his feet. "It was you, wasn't it?" His voice cracked. Michael's silence spoke louder than denial. The video continued, merciless. "Michael, my firstborn, my pride, you made yourself my enemy. You convinced your father to cut me from the accounts, whispering lies about my sanity. You branded me unfit, unstable, so that control would pass to you. It was you who sowed doubt in everyone's mind, who turned your siblings against me. You built your empire on my ruin." Claire gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Michael, you!" Daniel's face twisted with rage. "All this time, all of it. It started with you?" Michael finally spoke, his voice low and sharp. "I did what was necessary. She was weak. Someone had to protect the family's legacy." "Protect?" Daniel roared. "You destroyed her! You destroyed all of us!" Elora's voice cut through their argument, rising in power. "And so the legacy you sought to protect will be your undoing. Your greed was the seed. Every betrayal that followed, Claire's theft, Daniel's neglect, sprang from the rot you planted. You were the root of the sin." The screen shook, her voice echoing as if from beyond the grave. "This was the beginning. And now, the end approaches." The video flickered, freezing on her face. For a long moment, there was silence, except for Claire's muffled sobs and Daniel's heavy breathing. Then, suddenly, a door creaked somewhere in the apartment. The siblings froze. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from the hallway. A shadow stretched across the floor, growing longer, closer. And then, a figure stepped into view. A young woman, her features sharp but undeniably familiar. She held Elora's silver locket in her hand, her eyes burning with the same fire as the mother who had cursed them from the grave. Her voice was calm, but cold. "It is time you finally meet me." Cliffhanger. The siblings stare in shock as the secret child steps into the light, claiming her place in the family. The room fell into silence as the young woman stood before them, clutching Elora's silver locket. Her presence was like a phantom given flesh, unfamiliar yet eerily recognizable. Her eyes carried the same fierce light as their mother's, her jawline sharp in a way that mirrored Michael's. Claire was the first to break, her voice trembling. No, this can't be real. You're lying. You're some imposter sent to torment us." The young woman tilted her head, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. "Do I look like a stranger, Claire? Or do I look like the ghost you tried to bury with her?" Daniel's knees nearly buckled as he whispered, "You're her child, the one she spoke about." Michael's eyes narrowed, his voice cutting like steel. "Who are you? Say your name." The woman's gaze locked on him, unwavering. "Anna." The name hit the room like a thunderclap. Anna stepped forward, setting the locket on the table with deliberate calm. "You abandoned her, all of you. But she did not abandon me. She raised me in shadows, protected me from your poison. And now, her blood runs in my veins. Her truth burns in my heart. I am the child you never wanted, but the one she chose." Claire broke down into sobs, muttering prayers. Daniel staggered back, his hands trembling. Michael, however, did not flinch. His eyes glinted with cold calculation. "You think you can walk in here and claim what's ours?" he hissed. "You think a hidden bastard can undo everything I built?" Anna's eyes hardened. "I don't have to undo it. Mother already did. She left it all in her will. The clause you hoped no one would ever hear about." The words struck like a blade. The lawyer's warning replayed in their minds. If the secret child appeared, everything shifted. Daniel suddenly stepped forward, desperation twisting his features. "Anna, listen. We didn't know about you. Whatever Mother told you, she twisted things. We can fix this. We can still be a family." But Anna's laugh was hollow, humorless. "A family? You watched her rot in a cold room while you pretended she didn't exist. You stole from her, lied about her, abandoned her. Don't you dare call yourselves my family." Her words sliced through them like knives. Claire lifted her head, her tears mixing with fury. "Then what do you want from us? To humiliate us? To take everything we have left?" Anna's face darkened. "I don't want what you have. I want justice. And I want the truth to burn you alive, the way you left her to burn in silence." The tension in the room snapped. Michael lunged forward, slamming his hand on the table, his voice a roar. "Enough! You will not destroy me. Not now. Not ever." Anna did not flinch. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. She placed it carefully on the table beside the locket. "This," she said, her voice steady, "was the last thing she wrote. A letter addressed to me, and only me." The siblings stared at the envelope as if it were a loaded gun. Michael's hands trembled. Claire clutched her rosary so tightly it snapped, beads scattering across the floor. Daniel shook his head violently. "No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't leave you something we couldn't see." Anna's eyes gleamed with fire. "She did. And what's inside will decide everything." She turned to leave, pausing in the doorway, her voice soft but lethal. "Tomorrow night I'll read it, in front of the world." The door slammed shut behind her. The siblings were left in stunned silence, their eyes glued to the envelope on the table, the weight of their mother's final words pressing down on them like a curse. Cliffhanger. The letter lies unopened, holding the ultimate truth, one that could destroy them all. The world waited. Live streams were scheduled, news anchors prepared, and millions of strangers leaned forward in anticipation. For days, the Harrington saga had consumed the internet, and now all eyes were fixed on the promise of the final revelation, the letter. Inside Michael's apartment, the atmosphere was suffocating. None of them had slept. The envelope lay in the center of the table like a ticking bomb. Claire sat trembling, her rosary broken but still clutched in her hands. Daniel's skin was pale, his eyes bloodshot, his body restless with dread. Michael, ever rigid, stared at the envelope with the stillness of a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. And then, the door opened. Anna entered, calm, composed, holding the envelope in her hand. The locket hung around her neck now, glinting in the dim light. The cameras followed her every step, the live stream already rolling. She took a seat at the head of the table, directly across from Michael. She wanted this read aloud. No secrets, no hiding. The world deserves to hear it. Michael's voice was low, almost a growl. "Be careful what you unleash, girl. Words cannot be taken back." Anna met his glare with quiet fire. "That is the point." With trembling fingers she broke the seal. The paper inside was yellowed, the handwriting unmistakably Elora's, elegant yet strained, every stroke carrying the weight of a dying hand. Anna's voice was steady as she began. "My children, if you are hearing this, it means I have succeeded in what I could not do while alive, forcing you to face the truth. You destroyed me, each in your own way. But one among you was the architect. One among you leaked these videos, not to honor me, but to destroy the others." The siblings froze. Claire's lips parted in shock. Daniel's eyes widened. Michael's hands clenched into fists. Anna continued, her voice growing colder as she read. "The one who worked so hard to bury me has now made sure you could never escape me. Michael, my firstborn, my betrayer, my jailer. You released the videos. It was you all along." Gasps filled the room. Claire stumbled to her feet, her face white as chalk. No, that's impossible." Daniel's voice broke into a scream. You did this to us?" Michael's mask of control cracked, his face contorting with rage. "She's lying. She twisted the letter. She wrote this to pit us against each other." But Anna held the letter high, her voice ringing with finality. "You could not silence me in life, Michael. And in death, I made certain you would silence yourself." The room exploded. Claire lunged at Michael, striking him across the face with trembling hands. Daniel shoved the table, sending glasses crashing to the floor. The siblings screamed accusations, years of buried fury erupting all at once. Michael roared over them, his voice wild, unhinged. "I saved this family. I gave you everything. And you repay me with this circus? With her curse?" Anna rose, her presence calm amid the storm. She placed the letter back on the table and whispered, "No, Michael, you gave us nothing. You only took. And now, she has taken everything from you." The cameras captured it all. The violence, the tears, the destruction. Within minutes, the images were everywhere. The Harrington legacy lay in ruins, their name forever etched in scandal and disgrace. Michael sank into a chair, his face buried in his hands, finally broken. Claire sobbed on the floor, whispering prayers that brought no comfort. Daniel stood in the corner, staring at nothing, his body trembling with rage and grief. Anna turned to leave, the locket glinting against her chest. She paused at the door, her voice soft but echoing like a final curse. Her blood turned against her, and now it drowns in its own lies. The door shut. The camera feed cut. The world erupted. Final twist. The sibling who tried hardest to bury Alora's memory, Michael, was the one who unleashed her wrath, leaking the videos himself in a desperate attempt to control the narrative. Instead, he sealed his family's destruction. The Harrington name was finished. The mother's curse was complete.